Welcome to our first meetup that we're holding at an APAC friendly time. So our next speaker, Eugene Aseev, he's a CTO and co-founder at Chainstack. He's got significant experience in the R&D background covering engineering, cybersecurity and research. He's passionate about driving innovation and building highly sophisticated products and technologies in multi-stakeholder environments. Eugene's someone who've been, well, just had a lot of great conversations with over the last few years just about the work they're doing at Chainstack. It's really great to have him here speaking today.
Pleasure to be here, everyone. I will talk more about the a product today that we've built for last 2.5 years. Surprisingly, there are a lot of intersections with the talk from Peter because I will be talking a little bit about multi-chain present and future. Also, I will talk about different protocols. Largely, this will be around Ethereum, of course, because we are on the Ethereum meetup, but I will also cover other protocols. Also, I really like what Peter mentioned, that previously there were no blockchain deployments, especially in enterprise, and now there are actually companies that are moving solutions into more comprehensive phase, which is closer to production, which I totally agree with, and that's exactly what we see in our trends of usage of the service that we've built. So this will be more of a product showcase. I will talk about different features that an advanced next generation managed blockchain services platform is requiring today for any kind of use case, which is more than just like building an application on your local laptop. And I will talk about requirements. I will talk about different layers of the solution that are usually built when you're thinking about building a blockchain solution, because it's obviously not just about the chain. There are also other considerations like governance and identity management, and obviously for enterprises, what's very important is security and privacy. I will also show a short demo because I like showing live demos. It's fun. And then if we have any questions, I will be definitely happy to address them. So a couple of words about Chainstack. Chainstack is a company that was started in 2018. We're around 20 people today. We're headquartered in Singapore, quite remote today, as most of us are. We've been mentioned as emerging managed blockchain services platform in Gartner reports for blockchain for the last couple of years. We have a bunch of patents pending around blockchain management and blockchain node synchronization. So we've invented a couple of interesting methods of syncing nodes and providing our customers already synced nodes, which is particularly important for public blockchain scenarios like Ethereum, which has quite large ledger today. And which is the same for any other public blockchain protocol mostly. So we are having a few significant customer segments that we're addressing. So for enterprise in particular, and for Ethereum in the enterprise in particular, these are two segments: enterprises and system integrators. So enterprises are interested to build on Ethereum blockchain because it's well suited into their privacy security model, and they've heard a lot of good things about Ethereum. So they would like to try Ethereum, but they want to do it in a more controlled environment rather than a public network when you can have an unlimited number of adversaries and you cannot always manage your privacy as well. And the second group is system integrators. Those are the guys like Deloitte and PwC who are actually building a lot of projects for their own customers. So for them, managed services is perfect because they can manage all the projects within the single dashboard. They can run multiple networks of multiple protocols at the same time within the same dashboard. They can use multiple cloud providers. They can use on-premises. So I will talk about this diversity of hosting layer and the diversification of options that any managed blockchain service platform should have today, because we're talking about distributed technology, and it doesn't make sense if distributed technology is running on a mainframe or a single computer, right? So what is the value proposition that Chainstack has? We basically allow you to deploy, manage, and scale blockchain networks on multiple protocols, including enterprise Ethereum. We use Quorum for this, including public Ethereum. So we use original Geth client for this, and a bunch of other protocols, including Hyperledger Fabric and Corda, that you can manage all within the same control panel. The second part of it is that you can do all of that on multi-cloud infrastructure, which means that you can run a node on one cloud and another node on different cloud, and third node you can run on private hosting that you integrate with Chainstack. So I will show it a little bit in the demo how to do it. What is more important, that you can scale these networks as much as you want after you created the initial one. So it's totally customizable. So in many, let's say, open source frameworks, or in many managed services products, this is an issue because you can deploy a network of whatever 7 nodes and you can transact with them. But when you need to add the 8th node, this is a big deal because you don't really know how to do it. You don't have automation, you don't have scripts for that. So that's what is provided out of the box in our solution. We basically can modify the network anytime. We can add nodes, remove nodes. It's all very flexible and applies for any given protocol that we support on the platform. So now about different layers of solution when you're thinking about building a blockchain-based system, right? So obviously, the bottom one is infrastructure tier, is when you have a network, which is a physical network, or it's a cloud network, right, with a bunch of nodes, which are basically computers, right? Then you run blockchain nodes on top of them, and this is now logical node level. This is clear, more or less. So obviously, there's a lot of challenges there, including the ones related to orchestration, operations, monitoring, key storage, and so on and so forth. So this is a big challenge per se, but the solution design doesn't end here, because now you need to design your consortium, because you don't want to build a blockchain solution only for yourself. And I've heard in the breakout room there was a discussion around like, okay, why do you need an enterprise or like permission blockchain if you can use a database, which is a great point. So obviously you don't need it if you just have a database that anybody can write in and everybody's okay with that. But if you really need a multi-party kind of collaboration, and which includes hosting, multi-stakeholder environments, which are totally heterogeneous, then you might think about doing blockchain. But then it introduces a separate challenge, which is governance of all that. How do you convince members to join? How do you manage all the members in the network? How they make decisions, and so on and so forth. So this is another important layer, together with the identity management, because in permission blockchains, all the identities are usually known. Then the next layer is application layer, which is probably the most important one, because if there is no application, if there's no problem to solve, the other layers kind of doesn't make any sense. So on this application layer, we, for instance, provide what's called Chainstack Marketplace, which includes different applications, services, developer tools that can be used on top of the platform that provides you the core infrastructure and consortium identity management capabilities. What's also important, and what's almost 100% of our customers really like, is that we provide API for everything. So whenever you need to spin up a network, or you need to add a new identity, or you need to add a new node, or anything you can do in the platform, you can also programmatically do. So it's very useful, for instance, if you want to have a CI/CD process, when you want to spin up a new test network, deploy your smart contract on it, and then destroy it, and then basically run it every night. So in order to do this, you need an API, and that's what we conveniently provide, and that's what everybody likes a lot. So if talking a bit in more details about each layer, starting from the infrastructure one, what's important for distributed solutions is to provide this variety of options to host your nodes and to host your data within the ledger, right? Because very important sometimes for compliance reasons. It's very important sometimes for just common sense reasons, because you again don't want to run a network on one single PC or one single server. So the more options you have, the better, because you can accommodate more requirements. So in our case, we have three modes of operations for our customers. So first is fully managed by Chainstack. So we have our own cloud setup, which is optimized and which is secured, and it doesn't require anything from our customer, any infrastructure, any efforts to install anything. So basically, you can use the platform, you can build your blockchain solution in the browser. The hybrid mode is when basically you can choose which components you want us to run and which components you want to run yourself. One of the popular configurations here is when we run the management console, where you can actually orchestrate all these nodes, install applications, etc. But the actual node infrastructure is running on your own cloud or on your own server, right? So this is very popular among our enterprise customers, because they want to control where the nodes are running, where the data is stored, especially it's important to GDPR and related laws, like in UK, it's not GDPR, but it's very similar. The third option is when the platform is fully managed by you. So basically you have full control. You have the control panel running on your own premises. You have the nodes running on your own premises. This is basically another end of the spectrum of okay, how do you host your blockchain solution? How do you host it, including the management interface, right? So these are some of the examples that can be implemented on Chainstack. So here is the hybrid deployment, which shows that we have a console in the middle, which can orchestrate all your deployments on the cloud on the left side, and we support multiple clouds like AWS and Google Cloud and Azure. And you can also connect your own on-premises cluster and deploy nodes there, and it works well if you even combine them within the same blockchain network. So you can have a bunch of nodes running in your own premises cluster, a bunch of nodes running in the cloud, and then if you add on top the governance features, basically you can have multiple members running nodes in their own environments, whether it's a Chainstack managed cloud or customer managed cloud or even on-premises environment. So this is a self-hosted deployment example. So there's a bank which basically hosts entire platform, including the console, together with the orchestration engine. And then it has a cluster in UK, it has a cluster in Singapore for different subordinaries of this bank. And it can perfectly be managed through the same console as well. So the governance tier is important because you need to organize all these members of the network that you built, and you want them to have a very simple way to onboard. Because you don't want, like how onboarding was done before, Chainstack, like people jumped on the call and they said, okay, now if you want to join my Quorum network, you need to paste this Genesis block JSON to your file system, and then you need to run this command line with this console parameters and so on and so forth. So it's definitely not very convenient. So what we've done, we've implemented the invitations through email for the members to join the network, right? So basically, whenever you invite someone to join your network, you just send an email from the platform, and then as soon as this representative of another organization signs up on Chainstack and accepts the invitation, it can be in the same project, and it can basically create the nodes in the same network that you share. So and seeing only the data that this organization is allowed to see. So we'll take a look at this later, which is quite handy when you want to invite different organizations, when you want to invite different parts of your own organization to work on different projects. So you can organize this in a very flexible fashion, and you can basically specify which departments should have which access to which projects and which networks, right? And last but not least, the application tier again, for us, we provide extensive documentation for the platform, which explains how to build things on Chainstack on all the protocols that we support. And we also provide a lot of tools in our marketplace that help you to build. So for instance, for Enterprise Ethereum, we provide the Epirus Explorer, which was built by Web3 Labs, that are the hosts today on the Meetup, and a bunch of other solutions, including like off-chain storage, on-chain storage, and other development tools as well. So why don't we have a quick demo of the platform while we're here. So this is my dashboard that I have under my account. I have different projects here. As you see, there are multiple types of projects. So basically, you can have a public chain project and you can have a consortium project, which is pretty cool because in the same platform, you can run, for instance, public Ethereum node, and you can also run like private Ethereum network, and they can all like work together. And the experience of creating them is very seamless. So you don't really need to learn how all this works. So you can just like go through the wizard to create both of them. So I pre-created a project called Enterprise Ethereum for the sake of this event, and created a network which is called Staging Network, and I use protocol Quorum to deploy it. As I mentioned, membership of this project is managed by simply like inviting a member over the email. So in this case, I have two members. One I just invited, which is called Dreams Delivery. And this organization actually deployed a second node in the same network that I deployed earlier. So if you go through the network deployment process, is very straightforward. So you specify a network name, you select the protocol. As I mentioned, we support a bunch of them. So if you select Quorum, you can choose the consensus algorithm, whether it's Raft or IBFT. You can click to learn more to understand what's the difference between Raft and IBFT and why would you choose one or another. Then you can choose the hosting. As I mentioned, you can choose either Chainstack managed hosting or private hosting. In order to use private hosting, you need to add integration. So currently we support out of the box AWS EKS. So if you want to deploy nodes in your own infrastructure, you can use your own AWS account. And it's just about like choosing the region where to deploy your nodes. Let's say it's London, and specifying a bunch of credentials that are pretty standard, and choosing the domain name for your deployment, and that's all. So then you can use the same integration to basically deploy nodes exactly in the same way as if you would deploy them in Chainstack Managed Cloud. So Chainstack Managed Cloud supports multiple cloud providers, including AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. So for instance, I would choose Azure London here. We explain what will be deployed. So what is also handy is we don't give you like a lot of options whenever you create a first network. So we predefine what is the first batch of nodes that will be created. So we give you an Explorer node by default, so that you don't need to create it separately, or you don't need to spin a separate Explorer. So whenever you want to observe the network, you can do it directly from the platform again. What is also cool is that we don't charge for service nodes. So the Explorer, for instance, that is running, we don't charge for it. We just charge for the peer nodes, because peer nodes are the ones that are doing the work on the blockchain. And that's basically all. Then you just review your deployment. You have the estimated cost. I'm on the enterprise plan, so the cost is pretty high. But if you're on the developer plan, it's basically like $70 per month. It's totally pay per use, so you can run a network for 2 days, and then you can destroy it and just pay for 2 days. Or if you want, you can run a network for 1 hour and then destroy it and pay just less than $1 for running a network for 1 hour. So that's a network that I pre-created a few hours ago. If you go inside the network, you will see that I have a couple of nodes. One that I created, and it's hosted in Azure London, and another one that my collaborator company called Dreams Delivery created, and they wanted to host a node in Singapore. Right, so they are perfectly aligned with each other, so they are peered, so they can talk to each other. We can also see the service node, Explorer, right? whenever you go to the node details, you can see the credentials if you are the owner of the node. So we can see all the details, like where is it hosted, what are the versions of the software running, what are the namespaces for API available, what are the resources that are allocated to this node currently, and all the credentials that you need to access your node. If I go to node that I don't own, so basically this is my collaborators node, I just see the public information like public key, wallet, default wallet address, public key of the wallet, and so on. So that's all the information that I can get. I cannot physically get any other information about this node. So whenever I want to transact to it, I can use the public information. So that's what I've done. I use MetaMask for the sake of the demo, and I just basically connected to my initial node that I created. I just specified the custom RPC endpoint in MetaMask, and I just sent some tokens from my first node to another node. I can show it again. So let's say initially I have a lot of ETH allocated to the first node so that it can basically operate as a foreset for other nodes in the network. So in this case, I can send, I don't know, 300 ETH. And since it's a private network, I don't need to provide gas, which is pretty cool. So then I confirm the transaction. It will be pending for a second, and then it will be approved. So then we can always click the Explorer to see what's happening on the network. And here I have an Explorer which is opened on some of my first transactions that I created in the network. And basically I send like 100 ETH. We can go to see the latest one. We can see like 300 ETH sent, and I can see like the details of this transaction. Obviously this is super primitive example, which doesn't include any smart contracts, but it just to show how easy it is to spin up a new network and then start doing transactions between nodes in different regions, in different clouds. So it's basically, it took me like 10 minutes to do all of that. We also provide tools on the marketplace, as I mentioned. So if you go to chainstack.com/marketplace, you'll see a lot of tooling here, including application services and dev tools. And some of them you can use right away. Some of them you need to apply for in support tickets so that we deploy it for you. As I mentioned, we also provide a lot of documentation around how to build things on all these protocols that we support. So for instance, for Quorum, we have two nice tutorials. One, how to use Web3 JS to build a temperature control smart contract, and it includes all the code for the smart contract. It includes all the instructions how to deploy it, and so on and so forth. So if anybody is interested to learn how to build things on Quorum blockchain, on Enterprise Ethereum blockchains, you're welcome to take a look at this tutorial. Another one is loyalty program with Truffle. Truffle is a very popular tool to basically create, deploy, and test your smart contracts. So we also explain how to use Truffle, which is #1 framework for building smart contracts, how to use it with Chainstack, how to build a sample application with that as well. So that's all about the demo. So I would be happy to show more if anybody has any elaborate questions. To complete the talk, I'd like to talk a little bit about more enterprise related requirements for blockchain networks. And what we've done for that. So there are a number of challenges when you're dealing with enterprise deployments, namely security, data privacy, identity management, and operations. I think these are the primary ones, at least the technical challenges that exist. So how we handle security, we implemented backup and disaster recovery. So whenever, let's say, your ledger is damaged, we can always recover it. We obviously implemented role-based access to all our employees. They have two-factor authentication to access all the data. So we use storage encryption by default. We always use TLS to connect between nodes, two nodes, so we don't have plain text connections. So we implemented like vulnerability assessment, patch management for all our code base, including the protocols that we run. So for instance, we have like currently supported around 6 protocols, and they always get updated and upgraded. So we always scan them for potential vulnerabilities. Identity management is critically important for any enterprise deployment. So we've implemented a feature called Chainstack Vault that securely stores all the identities, and it's using a HashiCorp Vault in the backend. So for those of you who are familiar, this is a very popular key management service, and it is quite famous for being used in different blockchain deployments as well. So the guys in HashiCorp did a lot of work on blockchain as well, and they published a lot of posts around like how you manage like Ethereum keys in HashiCorp Vault, how you sign externally the transactions through HashiCorp Vault. So I highly recommend to read through it. We also allow connecting external KMS and HSM for the key management as well for our enterprise customers. Privacy, I mentioned this briefly, that on-premise deployments, hybrid deployments, they are very interesting in this aspect because we don't have any data touch points to the deployments. So basically we use external cloud or external on-premises hosting, and then we basically don't know what's the data there. We don't have any possibility to see what's going on there, which is great for privacy of our customers. We obviously use least privilege rule for all these deployments, so we just access the management tools, and we don't access the ledger itself. Since we're heavily using containerized applications, including blockchain nodes are also containerized. Everything is isolated, so there is no way for applications, for ledgers, for databases to get access to each other because they are isolated. Operations are very important because you really want to know what's going on in your network, especially if it grows. So we have extensive feature set in the platform, including activity log that shows you what happened in your account, like who created which network, who invited which member, and so on and so forth. So all these kind of events are logged, and you can audit them anytime. We also provide node logs that you can analyze to see what happened with your node if something went wrong. On our backend side, we also have extensive monitoring built in for our team to understand our infrastructure 100%. What is the resource consumption? Are there any errors? Are there any restarts? So all the deployments that we have are monitored, and we have our built-in monitoring solution that we also share. Whenever we have an on-prem deployment, we're happy to share our best practices and our monitoring dashboards with the customers. Last but not least, there's still a lot of confusion and ambiguity in blockchain projects. So we also provide professional services on top of what I mentioned around the platform. So basically, we help you to understand like what's the best way for you to design your blockchain network. We also have a lot of partners that help to implement the solutions, the applications. So we don't do application development ourselves because we are mostly focused on the platform, on the infrastructure. But we have a lot of partners who help to build the applications themselves, who's also using Chainstack in the end for hosting of the nodes and the networks. That's all. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to learn more, you can always go to our docs. You can just read more about Chainstack at chainstack.com, or you can sign up for a free trial. So you can use Chainstack for consortium nodes for 2 weeks, absolutely for free. So anybody who's interested to try it out and provide any feedback, you're absolutely welcome. I will be happy to talk, and all our team will be excited to talk. That's all. And as I say in the end, welcome to Chainstack.
Thanks, Eugene. Did anyone have any questions in terms of protocols? Do you think that there's other protocols on your radar that you may incorporate onto the platform in the nearer future? Of course, like you publish your annual report in terms of the kind of state of enterprise blockchain. But do you think that there's any others beyond the ones you currently provide that are sort of bubbling up enough that you're going to start bringing in?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, I also wanted to plug the report, because it's free report that we publish every year about enterprise blockchain protocols and stats around the development of these protocols. So this year we had a highlight for Ethereum, because we see a lot of movement there, including protocols like Quorum, again, which was purchased by and acquired by Consensus, and now it's developed in much more high frequency fashion. As for new protocols, we are closely following Baseline and trying to understand how we can integrate it. So this is something that is on our radar. As for other protocols in general, we are quite heavily looking at other public blockchain protocols, mostly EVM-based. So we partnered with a company called Polygon, which was called Matic Network before, and we're going to support their on the platform in a couple of weeks. And we're looking at other EVM-based protocols as well, because they are the closest to be on the multi-chain future, since we have like projects like Yearn that is already attempting to do this, all the Yearn functionality on multiple chains. And this is mostly available because you have EVM, right? And these networks are more interoperable by design, rather than you want to send a transaction from a Corda network to an Ethereum network. So I would say we are closely following Baseline on the enterprise front, and we're following and working with many other protocols on the public blockchain side, including mostly including the EVM-based protocols.
If everyone could give Eugene a virtual round of applause as a thank you for his wonderful presentation there. Just to talk about our next meetup, which will be happening next month. We have John Whelan, who's Managing Director of Digital Assets at Banco Santander, one of the world's largest banks. He's also the chairman of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance as well. So really looking forward to having John speaking. I also recently started a podcast as well, which goes out every week, where I discuss just the main things that are happening across, crypto, enterprise blockchain, DeFi, and the NFT markets. And that's available as podcast, also YouTube, video, and you can see that on our Web3 Labs channel. And then there's a Clubhouse session as well, where we just discuss the items that have come up that week.